There's a guitar. I think the guitar is even in focus. That was weird what just happened on screen there. Okay, yeah, that looks good. Let's pause that stream because I don't need to look at that. Ooh. There we go. Let me. Looks like my voice is mixed pretty good. Yeah, up in the yellow. There's my guitar. Seems like it's. Let me know if the guitar needs to come up some. I'm going to get OBS turned down there. So over on this page right here, I've got some chords that I'm going to walk through how to finger these chords because people were asking about it in the Dwelling of Duels Discord. So, yeah, maybe I need to see this and make sure. Let's make sure that I can see everything I need to on camera here, because that'll make sure that you can see everything you need. Okay, so I don't want to waste a lot of time. We're going to jump right in with how these go. So we start with an augmented chord, and notice what we're going to do is we're just going to flatten things as we go down. That augmented starts with root, flat 7, 3, sharp 5. This is the only time we're going to raise something on the way down, is this is going to become a 7 for our major 7 chord, root 7, 3rd, 5th. For minor 7, or dominant 7, sorry, we're going to have a flatted 7 added in there. For minor 7, we're going to flatten the 3rd. For minor 7, flat 5, predictably, we will flat the 5. Then for fully diminished, we will flat the 7 a second time. So we'll end up with a double flatted 7. Could you call that the 6? No, you can't call it the 6. It's a double flatted 7. It's not the same as a 6. It's a different letter in the alphabet. Coming over here with the A root ones, we're going to do something similar. Notice we have a sharp 5 here. For that, we don't have a 7 in the augmented. There are shapes that do it, but my preferred shape is to leave out the 7. Then we will flatten that 5 to get our major 7, roots 5, 7, 3. We'll flatten the 7 here, then we'll flatten the 5. We'll flatten the 3, then we'll flatten the 5, then we'll flat the 7 again. Then over here we get into some 9th chord shapes. These shapes that use these triangles like this, super useful. So anyway, now that we've gone through talking through what the chords are, let's play them. So the augmented 7, you're going to use your first finger for the root there, then your flat 7, like that. Then you're going to use ring and pinky to catch the 3 and the sharp 5. Similarly, later on, we're going to have the 13, which is right there. And if you have right there is your regular dominant 7, we'll get to in a second. And you'll see that going from the 5 to the 6 to the, going from the 5, up to the 13. 5, sharp 5, 13. Major 7, you're going to use your first finger again. Then you're going to catch ring finger on the 7, pinky on the 3, middle finger plays that 5 right there. Not anything too tough to do. I'm going to go back through these again in just a minute to show you ways to make them even easier. Your dominant 7, you're just going to start with your index finger, then middle finger, third finger on every other string. So, see how that went? And then you're going to drop your pinky in there on the third. Whoa, move the camera the right direction, Sean. There we go. Now, for your minor 7 chord, this is one that people want to fight about. Just do it this way, trust me. It'll make your life easier later on. We'll talk about it in a few minutes. Look at that. That's not even hard. It's not difficult. Just middle finger goes there. Ring finger catches these 3. But my middle finger ring catches this big. Yeah, I mean, look, if it hits that, it's not a big deal. It's just doubling the root again. But try to catch it in the crease of your finger so it mutes the high E. If you need it, you can grab the 9 up there with your pinky. If you really want, you can grab the flat 9, but don't. So there's minor 7, half diminished, minor 7 flat 5, same chord. This one is going to be like this. It's similar to the major 7, except we've had to change the role of the index and middle finger. So we're going to have middle finger here, catch these 2 with the ring and pinky, just like we did on the other chord. Then your first finger is going to come up here, back behind them. Can you see it? Can you see it now? I think, did my camera shift on me? So it's hard to see that, but it's back there, 1 fret behind, catching that flat 5. Now your fully diminished is, you may notice it's the dominant 7 with the root moved up 1 fret, but we can't finger it that way. We're going to put our middle finger here. We're going to bar across behind. Some people will try and play the minor 7 like this with everything squished up on 1 finger. Don't do that, man. That's hard to get to in time. Like when you're playing fast changes, that's not going to work out for you. So we're going to put this back here, and then your ring finger is going to come up and catch the rest of what makes this triangle right here. So to catch the double flatted 7 and the flat 5 with your index finger, then the flat 3 right there with your ring finger. Isn't that a great chord? And you look at some of these and you think, oh, these are going to be too hard to get to. They're not. Let's talk through real quick again some of the ones that people I've had, because I taught guitar for 20 years. So I've heard every excuse and complaint under the sun for why somebody might want to not play something a certain way. So let's kind of talk through those real quick. Like something I'll hear, this major 7. Oh, it's too hard to get all these. Look, if you can play this minor bar chord right here, like that's a D flat minor, right? Super common chord. All we're doing is taking that and moving 1 finger. And now it's an A major 7. In fact, play around with that chord change, and specifically just so that one, it's not hard once you kind of wrap your head around it. The one that I kind of will give you is just being a headache is this dominant 7. But once you kind of lock in the every other string there and then drop the pinky, it becomes a lot easier. You kind of can figure it out. Now this minor 7, people are, oh, my pinky or my ring finger doesn't bend that way. Yeah, your ring finger does too. Number one thing that I have people do when they're starting out is we're trying to do this, And I see this happening. If I had to correct you 143 times to not do this when we were trying to play this stuff, don't come to me whining about your fingers don't bend this way. I know better. I watched it happen. Your fingers bend this way. So to catch this, and check it out. See that C7, right? You can do that, right? Do that. Oh, look at how easy that was. Or instead of the major 7 there, we'd hit. So now we've got all of the E root chords. We've gone through all of those. So let's do that. Haha, stem, dat, stone is stem. Stern, stone is, oh, it's stern. I got some kimming going on, George. So, yeah, don't whine to me that your fingers can't bend. They bend. It happens. It's not hard. So let's take a look here real quick. Yeah, we'll move that out of the way. Now let's take a look at these A roots. I already described them, the logic behind them, so we're not going to do that again. We don't want to waste a lot of time. So your augmented, it's just like an F chord moved over a string. Let's try and catch a little better view of what's going on, though. So there we go. Focus. So just not that hard. Now your major 7. Let's do it up here so you can see it better. That's not too bad, right? That one's easy. It's just a power chord, and then you tack those on. Your dominant 7, again, power chord. Minor 7. Now this minor 7, this is the Doobie Brothers chord. You use it to play long train running. You don't really use it to do anything else. Don't use it for anything but that. There are better ways to play a minor 7. Minor 7 flat 5. Half diminished. We're going to switch to using first finger, middle finger, first finger bar, ring finger. Let me just get that. That one's not so bad. Then we have the fully diminished. This one's probably the toughest one, in my opinion, to get to quickly. Because you got middle finger here. And again, you might notice that diminished 7 chord could be thought of as just a regular dominant 7 with the root raised. And you'll see that happen. You'll see that chord change. Let me back up so we can get a little more in focus. So which I think of as the Toys R Us progression, but it's the same as the Super Mario. It's that I'm drawing a blank on the melody now because that. Okay, so now let's talk about these 9th chords. All them fancy add 9s everybody likes so much. Always add the 9. First we have this one, which is this just a dominant 7. Just that triangle shape. It's just like your good old cowboy chord C7 that you learn in any guitar learning book. Nothing else fancy going on. But we're going to use that as the basis for some things. Now, if we take that and we flatten the 3rd, listen to that D minor 7 like that. And the one I'm playing here is, move the mouse, this guy right here. You can see me circling. If you're playing a D minor 7, I lied. There are circumstances where the Doobie Brothers chord is okay. You know, I'm just being hyperbolic, but that closer voicing is better a lot of the time, especially if we move over here and play the minor 9. That's a chord you want to use right there. Listen to that voicing. And that's... And this goes along with that minor 7, where we do the middle finger and then the bar. So this minor 9 we just played uses that. If we go up above it to this regular 9 chord, you'll notice in a minute, sometimes we're going to call this a 9, sometimes we're going to call it a 7 add 9. The reason for that is if I tell you to play a D flat 9, you don't know if I want you to play a D chord with a flat 9 or if I want you to play a D flat chord with a 9. D flat 9 is ambiguous. So if we want the D flat chord, we will say D flat 7 add 9. If we want the flat 9, we will say D7 flat 9 because it's unambiguous. When you see these big, long, fancy chord names, a lot of times the point of that chord having such a long name is just to make it easier for you to know exactly what to do. It's just to remove ambiguity. That 9 chord right there, that should sound familiar instantly, right? That D9 to G. And it's the D chord with the E on top, that 9 voicing. Super useful chords. You can do things with the 9. Some of you will watch this and you'll be thinking, well, I'm used to doing that with my pinky here. The sharp 9. The Jimi Hendrix sound. And yeah, sharp 9. So that would be an E7 sharp 9. You probably wouldn't call it ever like an E sharp 9. That's somebody might play an F chord. The major 9, this is a beautiful sound in voicing here. This uppermost one right there. We have the root, the 3rd, the 7th. That's just a nice sound to have those all within the octave like that. I would almost all of the time, if it's up, I would rather hear the 3rd in the same octave as the 7 than the 5. That's not bad. I just feel like I'd rather hear this relationship than this one. And then we stick the 9 on top. And now it's magic. Just listen to that. Use that thing. That's a great voicing. Root 3rd, 7, 9. Right up on top of it. So, now we've gone through all of these voicings. What are we going to use them for? How are we going to use all these things? What do we do with these? That's a great question. So let me pull up this Jazzy Chords sheet right here. I hope you can read that. Let me take a look at the stream real quick and see if I can read it. I could zoom in. That looks pretty legible. I'm going to be talking about what I'm doing anyway. So, okay. So at the beginning here, this 2-5 practice, the 2 to 5 chord change is super common. You see it all the time, especially in jazz music. Just for example, if we play in the key of G, we would have a G major is the 1 chord, and we would probably turn that into a G major 7. Isn't that a neat dissonance between the 1 and the 7? Those two flavors, if we were making a sandwich, you wouldn't think to put those two things on a sandwich. But if you add the right ingredients to cut that nasty clashing flavor, now all of a sudden they're really nice. Same thing with this major 9 that I love so much, and I just said this is the greatest. Earth sandwich is exactly the way you do it. Listen to just the root 7. That's awful. Those two ingredients don't mix at all. Listen to... Those two don't go together, but the 4 of them, so you have to think when you're building chords, it's like having 4 people. You know, Mike and Steve don't get along. Joe and Bob, they don't get along, or yeah, and that's not awful, but they don't get along super well. But the four of them together, they Voltron up in a very magical way. So anyway, back to this 2-5. We have this A minor 7. So in the key of G, G is 1. The letter A would be 2. So that's our minor 7, our minor 2. And then for the 5 chord, we would have a D7. But what I'm going to do almost all the time is make it a D9. Usually you can get away with the 9 because that soprano note is just held over from the 2 minor 7. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes the song will play this note, like the flat 9, and you get... Hear those sopranos resolve that? Bum, bum, bum. That's a great thing to have your chords resolve like that. Or we could have the sopranos stay in the same place. So A minor 7, D9, bum, 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 and that's a strong resolution as well. So that 2, 5, 1. Now that's starting with the 2 on your low E string. So we're using the E shape. Then the 5 starting on the A string. Then the 1 chord back 2 frets below your 2 chord. We could do that the other way around. Let's use a minor 9 right here. So we've got a D minor 9. We're in the key of C now, so D minor 9 is our 2. G13. And it's usually going to work because you're holding your sopranos. Anytime you start adding extensions when they haven't been specified, there is a risk that you're going to play something wacky. Take the risk. What's the worst that's going to happen? You play a wrong note. Nobody's going to kick your dog or anything. It's just a wrong note or a sour note. So if it doesn't work out, come back, use a different extension or no extension the next time around. But this is a thing that you want to do, especially when you're playing jazz charts, is you want to play through the changes. The first time, you usually play through it fairly straight. If it's a chart you've never played before. As you play them, you'll learn what works and what doesn't. But as you go through and repeat those changes, it can be a lot of fun. That's sort of part of the fun of experimenting and improvising with jazz charts, is to start altering your chord changes, start putting extensions in. And after you play through the same cycle of chords 9 times because some sax player wanted to solo for 8.5 minutes, you're going to get tired of the same boring, just playing minor 7, 7, nothing. You get tired of that. So anyway, this is our minor 2, then our 5, and all of a sudden, Sunday morning happens. You notice when I play that, sometimes my ring finger will kind of fall over like that, because it doesn't affect the string in front of it. It doesn't matter. So if you find your ring finger kind of is more comfortable doing this, my first finger's hitting the wrong thing. If you find that your ring finger is more comfortable falling over like that, it's not a big deal, and you can even use that to play your augmented chords. All right, so let's look at this 2-5 practice thing that I've written. We're going to go to the 10th fret for our first measure, and we're going to play a D minor 7 to G9. Then we're going to go to the 8th fret, and we're going to play C minor 7 to F9. Now notice I've got stuff behind there. I'm calling it the 8th fret because that's where the lowest note in the chord is fingered. That doesn't mean we're not allowed to hit notes behind it, but we're calling it the 8th fret because that's where we're planting. So then we'll go to the 6th fret, B minor 7, E flat 7, add 9. Not just E flat 9 because that would be confusing. A flat minor 7 at 4, D flat 7, add 9. And then we have a 2nd fret. This could be called G flat or F sharp. you'll see F sharp more than you'll see G flat, then B, and then we end with just a plain old cowboy chord E. Just there. So if we start at 10, sorry, I don't know if I can get the whole guitar neck in focus and make it viewable. That's pretty good right there. So what we do is we just play through this. And we just walk that 2-5 change all the way down the neck. And I'm finger picking, I'm just thumb and then claw. If you're doing this with a pick, it's fine. If you want, you can end there with F sharp major 7. Or more correctly, G flat major 7. Let me turn that down so I can hit it harder. You should be able to do those 2-5s in your sleep. Now, similarly, the minor 9 here at the 10th fret for the G minor 9, then we'll have C13. Ending on B major 7 at the 2nd fret. So you can just... so those are two things. Rewind this, go back, make sure you're getting it right. Do those just over and over hundreds and hundreds of times. Now that we've done those, let's do something stupid with them. Like we could take this 2, and instead of just going right ahead and playing the 5 chord, I'm going to play just a single note, half step above the root of my next chord. And then I have my chord. Not too hard, right? Now, we're going to do that and repeat that process. So our next chord is our C minor 7 at 8. We're just going to play that half step above the root. Half step above, half step above. You can go completely nuts with that, and it makes it really look like you know what you're doing without it being anything super difficult. Just anytime you have these 2-5s, you could, there's the 1. There I added a flat 9, just to keep the sopranos moving as well as the bass. All I did there, we're in the key of G, I got a G major 7, that's my 1 chord. There's an A minor 7, walk up to the B minor 7, then the E9, flat, and the chords. Oh, sorry. And then you don't need the bass player anymore. So when he shows up late, it doesn't matter. So that's a cool thing you can do with those. Here's a trick that we're not going to get as in detail as we should. When you're playing here, that chord serves the same function as this chord. So instead of playing G minor 9 to C13, we can take that C13, which is really just a C7 with some extra stuff stacked up on it. And instead of using a C7, we can use an F sharp 7 or variant. So watch what happens now. We can do a 2-5, and instead of this big root shift, like that, where we're dropping down a perfect fifth to get from the 2 to the 5, we can drop a half step. That works with these two. You'll see that same chord change in Autumn Leaves. So we have our Doobie Brothers. And that is a tritone substitution, which we're not going to talk too much about. Just for now, accept it that it works. At some point, hit me up, ask me about it, and I'll tell you how, why it works. Now, let's talk about just something to practice, some good chord changes. If we look at I Will Survive here, it's actually got some pretty nice changes. We have an A minor 7 to a D7, which I've added a 9 to, then a G7. Oh, sorry. Major 7. I wrote the wrong thing there. G major 7 to C major 7. B7, E, E7. B augmented to E, to E7. And there's your Jimi Hendrix 7 sharp 9 chord on the E. D. I'm writing a D9. Man, I'm gonna delete this part of the stream before I archive it. I won't really. I'll live with my shame. That's a D minor 9. Sorry. What happened there is we decided the sopranos were super lazy, and they just sang that note the whole time. And those changes are a nice thing to just sit and work with. Notice I haven't notated any frets there, because play them in more than one place. Don't just say, well, it's got to be A, D, G, C, F, B, E. It can be A minor here. Then we can have our C, our G. I'm not a huge fan of that, but I do like this one. F major 9 up here instead of an F major 7 way down here. And B7 and E, E7. So there you get some fun with those chords. Next, let me pull up this thing. This, my friend Jer Roke did this thing, VG lead sheets. Let me I don't want to give you the wrong link. Let me pull this up here. VGLeadsheets.com. We pull this over there. VGLeadsheets.com. Looks like that. Let me pull my OBS thing back up. There we go. Make sure nobody's shouting at me in the Discord. No one is. Okay. So VGLeadsheets.com. Jer has transcribed a lot of stuff. He's done a really excellent job translating these in the real book / Aebersol style. If you try to learn jazz guitar, you're gonna jazz any instrument really. You're gonna get familiar with Aebersol charts and probably the real book. So let's take a look at this Costa del Sol from Final Fantasy VII. Now, notice Jer has, and not incorrectly, this is not a criticism, he has called this just a D7. Now, in the song, I'm pretty sure that E sits on top of there. So you could reasonably just call that a D9. But usually when you're charting stuff out, you want to go with just the meat and potatoes. You don't want to start salting things too much. Let people have an opportunity to do that later. But which is Uematsu really went Santana there. Now, if you're playing this by yourself on your guitar, should you play all those notes with one finger? Why not? You can get to them. And notice here in bar 13, we go down to a G. Bar 17, we're back to the A minors. Then we go back down to G. We're in the key of F now. Then we have this down here in bar 22, 3, 4, 25. We have our railroad tracks indicating we got a new section of the song. And notice now we're going 1 chord, 4 chord. What's that? That A7. That's weird. Yeah, it's a weird change. Everything shouldn't be not weird, right? Go ahead and stick. What that is it's a secondary dominant. We're in the key of G now. We've moved up. So we have our 1 chord is our G major 7. And you would expect the 2 chord, an A minor 7. But Uematsu has used an A dominant 7. What he's doing is he's sort of subverting your expectation a little bit there. That chord, if it were a 5 chord, would be the 5 of D. Right? A7, 5, D is 1. That's just a secondary dominant. The secondary dominant is just when you grab the dominant from some other key and just use it instead of the dominant of the key you're in. It's not anything to think too hard about. All we're doing is saying, okay, I'm going going to use the 5 of my 5 chord. It can get weird if you're trying to use a 5 chord that's the 5 of something not in the key. With enough theory, you can get away with justifying anything, though, so don't sweat it too much. If you find a 7th chord and you're like, oh, I want to use that, but you don't know, if you don't have a theoretical justification of it, keep in mind that that's not how it works all the time. The way theory works most of the time is somebody does something, and then somebody else has to figure out how to explain what they did. That doesn't mean you can't work the other direction just as well. But the way theory is created is usually the other way around. So if you're doing something and you don't know the theory for why that chord change should work, but you like it, don't ever not use it. Treat it as a chance to seek out some more theory and knowledge and figure out, why does this chord change work here? This works generally to get you to a D chord. He doesn't take it to a D chord. He goes from the... That's a neat change too, though, to go from A7 to A minor 7. It's in fact one of my favorite chord changes, is to take a major chord and then just follow it with itself as a minor chord. Just a neat change. It's an A, then we have C sharp 7, then we have a D. Yeah, minor 7, sure, D minor 7, or just D minor. Super common and really nice chord change to use. So let's take this guy and put this back up here. Thanks to Jer for doing all of that work. He put in a lot of work. There's a lot of music on VG lead sheets. So if you need a resource for finding chords, I recommend checking that out. I keep looking for... There it is. So back to our original sheet. Is there anything we didn't use? Yeah, another super common chord change that I want to talk about is in minor keys, you will usually have an altered dominant. And the altered dominant just means that your 5 chord is instead of being just a plain 7th chord, you're going to alter it. That's all it means. You could put a sharp 9 on it. You could put a flat 9 on it. The most common thing that I've seen is to put a sharp 5 on it. But you could put whatever. You could alter it in whatever way. So let's look at, for example, let's say we're going to end up in C minor. Our 2 chord is naturally going to be a D half diminished, D minor 7 flat 5. Now that going to a minor 5 from natural minor isn't done. No, forget that. Pretend that natural minor doesn't exist when you start adding these chords. Don't literally do that, but you know. So you would see a G major going to C minor. So that half diminished. My favorite thing in this instance, if I'm locked into these shapes here, is to use a G augmented. That's a nicer note in the soprano. So you hear this. Bum, bum, bum. It's just a neat chord change right there. So, yeah, in minor, that's just C minor, then D minor, 7 flat 5, G aug. We could add, just to show you a couple examples, instead of going to this augmented, Let's try. That's a nice change too. That's just altered dominant. We've stuck a sharp 9 on top. Let's try it with a flat 9. It's also really nice. What happens when you have two guitar players and they argue about it, and one plays a sharp 9, one plays a flat 9, one plays a sharp 5 or something? I mean, yeah, that can happen. Generally speaking, when you're playing these kind of charts, when you're reading lead sheets, it's going to be in a combo of some sort. You're not going to probably have multiple chord instruments. If you do, it'll be a guitarist and a pianist, and you just need to get along with them. You know, learn each other's habits. Figure out what you're going to do. If you need to, write out which changes you prefer to do. But anyway, that's how you use those chords. You can start taking these and combining them with other things. So there I've got, for example, a C chord, right? Then an A, minor 7. Whoa, why is that an A minor 7? I just left that note out. We didn't need it. And then I decided we did need it, but I just played it as the open string. And then I might have an E, then a C7. How did I get that C7? Again, I just took the note from this root and I moved it over to this string. F major 7 there. Same chord up an octave. That's just our Doobie Brothers. Down to the half diminished. Augmented A, then A7. F major. F minor. Back to C. That's an A. Oh, sorry. Add our 6 on top of that. Minor 6, the F. Then we have then the 2-5, D minor, G13, C. So we can take these chords What's the next chord? Oh, it's just straight to G. Then G13. Just had a brain fart. Forgot how to play Over the Rainbow. That's a neat chord we didn't talk about. Here's a bonus chord. C6-9. You have your C, then you get an A, then a D, then an F. Sorry, G, then another C. It's the best chord to end anything on right there. Like that. So you can start working these chords in with everything you do. Just make everything prettier. Prettier. And then start messing around with saying, okay, instead of playing the root on the bottom E string, we'll play the root on the high E string. Because why not? So anyway, that was. It does not need a 6 on top, George. Don't put the 6 on top. It's good with the root on top. Oh, you can't see that one. See, the root goes on top, George. Root goes on top. Anyway, that is how to play a bunch of these chords. I hope that will be helpful for the people who are asking about it. Usually I play video games on the stream, but today I felt like playing some guitar because I'm snowed in. I got my Mary... I got my PJs and my Mary Slothmas shirt on, so can't really go anywhere, so I thought I'd stream some guitar. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. I'm going to get out of here for now. As always, I am Ailsean from the Grammar Club, and I will see you later.